Presiding Judge Justice John Ajet Nassam today described the state handling of Woyome's case as shoddy, sloppy and lopsided. Has this become the state of Ghana's Attorney General's department, as continuously the state prosecutors appear to waste everyone's time each time they have to represent the state? So if you haven't heard already, businessman and NDC financier Alfred Agbeshi Woyome, who was standing trial for causing financial loss to the state and defrauding by false pretense to the tune of 51 million Ghana cedis, has been acquitted by the court. He is a free man now, and the state's poor handling of the case is raising questions. This is today's big story. With me, Aisha Brian. Today's big story is brought to you by Lifeline Properties, affordable and comfortable housing. In 2010, businessman Alfred Agbeshi Woyome was accused of illegally receiving 51 million Ghana cedis in 2010 for his role in the construction of stadia for Africa's Nations Cup CAN 2008 tournament held in Ghana. After 3 years of back and forth, the case against him was today thrown out by Justice John Ajet Nassam, who said the prosecution did a shoddy job and failed to prove its case against the accused person. In his ruling, he questioned why key actors in the case, including former Attorney General and her deputy Betty Moldridrisu and Ebo Batinodru, respectively, were not invited to testify. He told the court he had no option than to acquit and discharge the accused person. Now, Joy News reporter Anil Sabute also spoke exclusively to Woyome's lawyer, Musa Ahmed.
And I believe that after 3 years, this particular case has come to an end. I mean, you've always maintained that your client is not innocent, but the extent to which the verdicts will go. Were you surprised by the extent to which the judge read the content?
Well, I wasn't surprised because I expected this. And that has always been our case, that we did nothing wrong. And so this case has buttressed our point that we did nothing wrong.
And you said you did nothing wrong. I mean, for example, the judge raised the point that Mr. Woyome actually had a contract with the state. I mean, moving on, the question people are asking, it has to do with the reputation to his image. Is there something that your office is going to take up?
Well, you see, the institution of criminal prosecution has always been vested in the Attorney General in the name of the state. And so it is a prerogative, if you like, that the Attorney General may decide at any time in the course of her duties to prosecute a person for an offense, although not capricious or arbitrary prosecution. The Attorney General believed that an offense had been committed. The accused person believed that he had not committed an offense. You see, so the prosecution, I wouldn't call it a malicious prosecution. I would say that they believe that they had a case, they presented it in court. We believe that they didn't have a case. That is the beauty of the law. They have failed, we have won.
Let's establish one thing. So I was on the Supreme Court when Martin Amidu won a case against your client, where the state is asking him to bring back more than 50 million Ghana cedis. How is that different from in today's judgment?
That one is a civil claim. This is a criminal prosecution. The standards are different. The two are not the same. You may win on a civil claim against a party, but lose on a criminal prosecution against the same party. They are different. That is what the law has made a clear distinction between criminal prosecution and civil prosecution.
And with that particular case, I know that the Attorney General is on the heels of your client to pay back the money. Can you tell us anything with respect to that?
You see, with regards to payment of that money, I have stated that I do not have the instructions of my client to speak to that matter. It is a matter of privilege, and unless I have his specific instructions, I'm afraid I will not be able to speak to that.
There'll be party tonight, I guess.
Well, not party. There will be prayers tonight to thank God, the Almighty God.
How do you feel? 3 years, such a long time.
I feel good. I feel fine. I feel that justice has prevailed. That's it.
Okay.
You know, this is our work. We do it all the time. Every day we are in court. And so we win sometimes, we lose sometimes, and we move on.
Let's now take reaction from the Attorney General, Marita Briopon, who says the state completely disagrees with today's ruling. Anu Sabote will join me later on this issue.
We have, of course, taken note of the judgment given by the High Court acquitting and discharging Mr. Alfred Agbesi Woyome in the criminal case brought against him by the state. We respect the High Court, but completely and totally disagree with the judgment. The state has applied for a copy of the judgment. We've been told we'll get it next week. We'll study it, and as a department, we'll decide on what next steps we will take. Let me place on record that the Supreme Court declared that the payment of 51.2 million to Mr. Alfred Agbesi Woyome was illegal and ordered that he refund the money. We are pursuing it in the Supreme Court. We've started the process of recovering the money, and we intend to continue with that process.
Our man Ani is in the studio now. Welcome, Ani. Can you briefly walk us through this whole back and front of this Woyome case, the whole 3 years?
Okay, so essentially, I mean, you know, this particular case started when President Mills, of blessed memory, in 2012, on the 2nd of February, did order the economic crime, organized crime, Yoko, to investigate, you know, these allegations that the state had paid money to Alfred Woyome, who is undeserving of the amount. So they carried out a report, and then on the 2nd of February 2012, they did submit an interim report to the president. The next day, that is the 3rd, Alfred Woyome was then arrested. And I remember it was in the afternoon, and we had to go to the police headquarters of Broha. 6th February 2012 was arranged before the court. Now, at the time that it was arranged before, 3 charges were put around his neck: conspiracy, conspiracy to commit crime, defrauding by false pretense, and then causing financial losses to the state. Now, in the process of that, then the state also brought in a former state prosecutor and a person of Samuel Nekwe Tete, and then his wife, plus Paula Sumeni. Paula Sumeni is was at the time working at the legal department of the Ministry of Finance. So that's how he trained. Now, however, on June 5, 2012, Paula Sumeni, Nekwe Tete, and his wife were acquitted of all the charges because the state filed a nolle prosequi, and which means that to discontinue with the case. So then the charges against Alfred Woyome were reviewed to 2: defrauding by false pretense and then causing financial loss to the state. And then the case had to travel all through a legal process up until the time when the prosecution or the state court 9 witnesses in all. And then Alfred Woyome filed a submission of no case, which means that he has absolutely nothing to respond to the accusation, because so far as it's concerned, it did obtain the money genuinely. However, the court said that no, he has to come and open his defense. He did not call any witness. He stood in the box himself and did give all the accounts, blow-by-blow accounts, and then the case was shut till December when he finished everything, wrapped up, and then today our judgment was handed down. And
so would you say the judge's description of the prosecution's case as shoddy, lopsided, and a complete waste of time is fair?
I am not in a position to say whether it's fair or it's not fair, but the thing is that, you know, while the reading was being done, the Attorney General, Marita Brew, was in court. The state prosecutor, Cynthia Lamte, who on many occasions that through this particular court process I had met, was also in court, and a few officials from the Attorney General's department. And you could tell, for example, that at any time that the word shoddy comes up, at any time that the word sloppy comes up, at any time that their qualities were called into question, for example, you could sense their discomfort in their faces. They were pretty much unhappy. So, I mean, it is the judge who had reviewed the whole process, and he believes that, you know, you did not do a good job. Because, for example, he asked, why didn't you invite Betty Modidrisu? What stopped you from bringing in Martin Odu is now the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament. What stopped you from bringing in Nekwe and Paul Asomeni? What stopped you from bringing in Res Dankwa, who was a member of the local organizing committee in the 2008 Nations Cup? Why did you leave all these people and you brought in 9 witnesses who sometimes some of their own accounts were inconsistent with the facts before the court? So I think that it's a collection of different material that they just
so
put
are
together.
You saying they brought wrong witnesses to this
essentially what
case?
he believes is that most of the witnesses did not, instead of proving, because the burden of proof now lies on the state. Now you then need to bring a witness who can punch holes into the argument that Alfred Woyome has before the court. If you fail to do that, then clearly the church believes that you did not do your job well.
Okay, let me hang you on because Mr. Egbert Fable is a legal practitioner and he joins us in the discussion. Good evening, sir. Many thanks for your time.
Good evening.
Alfred Woyome is now a free man. What do you make of the judgment?
Well, I have not seen the full text of the judgment, but I have no doubt that the learned trial judge gave thorough consideration to the evidence before him in relation to the charges. And so until that judgment is set aside, that on appeal, if anybody that general desires, I will stand by that judgment and I will say that even before, from my position as a citizen and also a lawyer, right from the time when this case started, I went on record to say that the state was bound to lose this case. And for me, it was simple. At one material time, Mr. Woyome had a valid, persistent judgment of the High Court in his favor. It is that judgment that he used to procure or obtain the monies that he got from the government. The government failed to set aside that judgment before it commenced the prosecution. And so to that extent, Mr. Woyome always had a shell by way of that judgment, which was impregnable. And so in the end, apart from the fact that the prosecution by the judgment failed to call material witnesses and also to prove each of the ingredients of the 2 counts that he faced, I mean, it was clear. The right thing was very clear on the wall.
The Attorney General says that she totally disagrees with today's judgment. You think she has a point in saying that?
Oh, of course. As a party to the case, and especially when the case did not go as her office expected, you reasonably expect that she will say she disagrees with the judgment. But if you look at the ingredients of defrauding by false pretense, the definition is very clear in Criminal Offences Act 29. It makes it clear that when you accuse someone or charge someone with defrauding by false pretense, the ingredients are that the person should have procured something that does not belong to him but under false pretense, 1, or 2, that he did that through personation, or in other words, impersonation. Mr. Woyome did not impersonate, neither did he get the money as a result of any fraudulent conduct. He got a judgment on the back of a valid subsisting judgment of the same High Court that you went to for the prosecution. Now, how can a court, the High Court, this is, give judgment per its right hand, and then you, not having set aside a judgment, go before the same High Court and say that your judgment that he gave to Mr. Woyome is the reason why he got all this money, and that he got the money through fraudulent means? If it was fraudulent means, it should have been proven in any application to the High Court to set aside the default judgment that Mr. Woyome won on grounds of fraud. That was not done. So that is what has actually, looking at the whole structure of the case or the theory of the case from Mr. Woyome's side, that is one of the reasons why, this prosecution has failed.
Court has already ruled in a civil case that Woyome should refund an amount of 51 million cedis. How is it that a state would make this judgment and come back and then the High Court will rather rule and come back and say that Woyome is a free man?
The Supreme Court did not try Mr. Woyome's case or the case against Mr. Woyome that was brought by Honorable Martin Amidu within the remit of criminal law. It tried it within the remit of civil law. Mr. Amidu's case was that there was no agreement and that the High Court once there was no agreement, lacked jurisdiction to have heard the case. And the court on review upheld that position of Mr. Amidu. So, pursuant to that, it ordered Mr. Woyome to refund the money. Now, if you recall, and I've just been explaining to some friends of mine a little while ago, in the case of O.J. Simpson, he was prosecuted for the alleged murder of his wife at the time. The American prosecution, or whoever prosecuted him in the United States, lost the criminal case. He walked away a free man. But the family of his deceased wife sued him in a civil case and won huge damages. So if you relate the two, are you also going to say that why did O.J. Simpson win the criminal case against him but lost the civil case against him? It tells you that there are limits of the law, and each one has its rules of engagement. So if you are the prosecution or a plaintiff in a matter, you ought to play within the rules. And I'm saying that the offense of defrauding by false pretenses, for instance, the ingredients are clear. If there are 3 ingredients, and even if you meet 2 of them, but do not meet the 3rd one, it will not result in a conviction and sentence for the accusers. Now, you say woefully causing financial loss to the state. Mr. Woyome was not entrusted with money belonging to the state of Ghana to go and do a project, and then he went and misappropriated the money or embezzled the money. He had a valid substituting judgment of a court and served it on the government, pursuant to which the government paid him.
Well,
so
many thanks to you, Mr. Egbert Fable. That's all time will allow us. That was Egbert Fable. He's a legal practitioner. Now, Mr. Rawlings is a former president of the state. He's also spoken about this ruling.
As Attorney General's office, women who collaborate the states and our chairman, I'm not many. Tell my general sentence, man. We are fighting corruption. We're not serious. We're not serious. Meanwhile, I'm a family joke. I have work positions here, party. We know how to more party here, back on more. Maybe 40% Asian, 60% air voting. To protect themselves. He won't vote. He won't not Are we so stupid? As the support base, the electoral college, one and only Yanolo. Ni chabo nuhe, ona no confeto mo ona. Nibi ya onu. Mineko ya mayu.
The chairman seemed very angry, but he spoke some Ga at a point. For the sake of viewers who cannot speak Ga or understand Ga, can you just briefly explain what he said?
Essentially, what Mr. Rawlings was saying was that the quote-unquote the thief, Alfred Woyome, has been allowed to walk free, and how then, for example, do you fight corruption with such an attitude? And also talk about the fact that if you look at the NDC party, corruption is also going up, and then why is you trying to clean the party to weed out the 40% of what Mr. Rawlings believes are the corrupt elements? 60% more is being brought in. And they say when people get up, they say he doesn't speak. What do you expect me, Rawlings, to say? Because consistently I've told you that the elements in this party, most of them are very corrupt. So let's take them out. He made reference to the electoral college in the party itself, and talks about the fact that the system itself it also links itself to corruption, because it opens the space up for people to be corrupted. So it opens the floodgate for corrupt elements to infiltrate in the party, to take positions in the party as well. And then it's like, if you cannot see, don't you hear?
Wow, interesting. But you were in court today. What were the reasons given by the presiding justice for setting Mr. Woyome free?
Well, he believes that, for example, that the state was not able to sort of establish the needed ingredients to say that Mr. Woyome actually defrauded the state. Because, for example, you are saying defrauding by false pretense. You should be able to prove that without a shred of a doubt. You should be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt. It should be airtight that, for example, that indeed he secured the money by defrauding the state. You could not prove that, because the burden of proof is on you. It is not on Mr. Woyome. The court believes that they did not do that, causing financial loss to the state. In what position, what capacity, what do you describe as willful? He did not take money from the state to go and build, let's say, a classroom block to say he misappropriated the money or the money did not go right. However, he received or he got a default judgment which the state itself failed to enter an appearance in 2010. And it was based on the document that he had from the court. It came to you and he presented to the Attorney General at the time. They had to look at it. They called people, they reviewed the process, and afterwards a memo was minuted to say that, look, indeed, this man actually is entitled to this particular amount of money. Pay him.